fundamentals of Java. And then after this, we'll jump straight to our practice questions, right? And also on classes and objects, I'm not going to cover the whole slide, but maybe for those who didn't even try or bother to code. So normally in Java, so basically Java is just an object-oriented programming language. For that, I'm sure you know. I need to accept those who are actually joining now. And let's make sure that we are always on mute. Okay, so basically, Java use the concept of objects and the classes. Why we say that, that's why we are saying it's object-oriented programming language. To use the concept of objects. So what could be these things in Java? What are these things that we call objects? If you look at in the real world, we can have cars, students, dogs, humans, whatever is objects, right? So normally when it comes to Java, take the objects in Java is something like that. Why? Because they also have what we call a state and a behavior. If you look at it, a car, we can have a red car. Let's make sure that we are always on mute, and let's make sure that our cameras are off. Okay, so if you look at the real world, objects have got a state and a behavior, right? You can have a car, a red, a car of a color red, a car of maybe type or a model, maybe it's a Toyota, something like that. And then we can have a behavior like a car can start, something like that. That's the behavior, right? The state are the characteristics of that car as an object. So in code, for us to be able to solve the problems related to a car using a what? Using code, now we need to have some similar objects just like that, or that behaves like a car in our code, so that when you say a car can start, we can model that in our code and really show that, oh, we can have a method or some behavior of a car in our code, something like that. So basically, that's what we call um, an object. So normally, when you are now defining it, you can take an object as a blob, as an instance of a class, right? So there is what you call a class in Java, which is like a mother to these objects. So a class is a blueprint from which individual objects are created, just like that. So whenever you are seeing an object of a class, knows that it's as good as a copy of the class, right? Or of a class or of some class, something like that. So a class is an abstract description of objects, right? So you can have some objects like this, uh, a dog, whatever, and you can have different types of dogs, right? So if you look at it, this is a class, and that's how you define a class in Java. So basically, that's the introduction that I want to give. This one is an example. There's this about public class, whatever. These things, I've explained them under access modifiers. If you go on YouTube, you could see there's tutorials under access modifiers. That's what you learn about these public, private, protected, whatever, the default, whatever. That's where you learn about all these things, right? And these are just the state of an object or the characteristics, or we call them, these are just variables. Basically, these are just variables, but these are the characteristics that describes the object, right? This is a dog as an object, and we've got a breed, and a dog can have an age, can have a color, something like that. These are methods, we call them methods, and are just like functions. You know, you've done C programming. When you're talking about functions, these are just like functions. We call them methods in Java here. We call them methods. When you're doing OOP, you no longer hear that word function. You'll be hear a word method when you're calling this function. So a dog can bark, can get hungry, can sleep, something like that. So these are the methods or functions that we can get in a class, right? So basically, that's all about Java. So maybe now I can dive straight to these questions that we have. We have got 2 questions, which might be 3, whatever. But we've got these basic questions that we want to answer as practice questions. On question 1, we've got this question, which is talking about creating a superclass called the student and the 2 abstract and the 2 subclasses called undergrad and grad, right? So it's as good as this example here. This question here is asking you to create the class, and this class is going to be a superclass. So when you're talking about a superclass and a subclass, you are talking about inheritance, which is the one core concept of object-oriented programming, right? So when you're talking about inheritance, that's when you have maybe other classes take some of the information from another class, right? So they are inheriting. You are no longer recreating or redeclaring variables, whatever, something like that. You are just taking them from one class and then using them in another class. So it enables us to be able to reuse the code. Right. So here you are being asked to create a superclass called the student and 2 subclasses. So you're going to have 2 classes or subclasses which are going to be inheriting from the class student, something like that. And then we are going to have undergrad. And then the superclass student should have the following data members. So when you see the word data members, it's just talking about the variables that should be within that class. Like here, these are the data members. These are the data members, something like that. So you're being asked to provide those data members. Let's make sure that we're on mute. So okay, so it is going to have name, ID, grade, age, and address. So in the student class, we must have name, ID, grade, age, and address, right, as data members. And then the superclass student should have at least one method, So it must have which is going to be a Boolean method, which is a method which is going to return a true or a false. That's a Boolean method, right? And that method is going to be called is passed, and it is going to take a variable which is a double variable, something like int a, something like that. But this one is of type double, so it's a value that have got some comma, like a floating value, and it is going to be called grade, right? And the purpose of the is passed method is to take one parameter, right? So this is passed method is going to take one parameter, and that parameter is what is grade. And grade is going to have a range from a value between 0 to 100, which is a range from 0 to 100, and check whether the grade has passed the requirement for passing a course, right? So in this method, we are supposed to check if the value that we have or the grade that that person have actually passed the requirement, something like that. Okay, so look at these key things which are bolded here, right? And then in the student class, this method should be aimed as an abstract method. You are being told that in the student class or in the superclass, it must be an abstract method. What is an abstract method is that method that does not have implementation. So it's just a blank method. So you need to go and read about abstraction in Java as well. It's also part of the 4 main concepts of OOP in Java. So the 2 subclasses, grad and undergrad, will inherit all data members of the student class and override the method is passed. Take note of this. The grad and undergrad classes are going to inherit from the student class, and they are going to inherit all data members, which means all these. So when you are declaring them, they must be inheritable. When you are doing inheritance, you see that for you to be able to inherit, if the classes are within the same file, for you to be able to inherit, you need to declare them maybe with the public is the access modifier, or maybe with the protected. If you are within the same mode, yes, with the protected as well, you can inherit. But if it is private, you cannot inherit. So you are being told that please better make them public, these data members, so that other classes can reuse those variables, something like that. Okay, so for the undergrad class, if the grade is above 70, so for those who are undergrads, if the grade is above 70, then is passed, it returns true. Otherwise, it returns false. And then for the grad class, if the grade is above 80, then is passed, it returns true. Otherwise, it returns false. So you need to later on create a test class for your 3 classes. And in test class, you also need to create one grad object. So you need to create objects of the grad class and undergrad class, and then you test all the methods, which is the is passed method. And for each object, provide a grade and display the results of the is passed method. So guys, you see, this is a long paragraph. So for you to understand the requirements of this question, I think you need to note down some of the key things there, mostly those that I've highlighted, so that you get along with the question, understand what is needed there. And maybe because I need the test class is I wanted to see if I can have a demo here. Okay, I already have a demo that I have here. I was trying to avoid to create a new project. Why? Because I need a class with the main method as class test. I hope. Okay, I have it here as well. So I can just use the one that I already have on that side, rather than to create a new class. But okay, so let's try to do this. Okay, guys, so for now, ignore this class that I have here, for one good reason. This is not the class that you are going to create first, right? Why? Because uh the main class that you want to work with are not this class. But practically, if you are doing the practical, you are going to create this class first. Why? For one good reason. It's going to be our main class. So this name here is supposed to be the same as here, whatever. So this is what you're going to create first. If you're going to create it on IDE, right, that's what you're going to do first. But practically, but basically, theoretically, it's not the class that you're going to create. If you're going to create separate class, you would find out that you're going to code the student class first, and then after that, you are going to go for other classes inheriting from the student class, and then you test using the test class. So the test class is the last thing that you are going to code. But firstly, what are we going to do? Firstly, we need to create the superclass called the student, right? So we can have our class, right? So to create a class, just need to say class student, right? And for a class, you do not put some brackets. You do not put this for a class. It's only for a method. So this is how I can declare a class, right? But because this class is supposed to have an abstract method, it means this class is also supposed to be an abstract class, something like that. Supposed to be an abstract class here. That's why we have this. And here syntax error. Okay, I have it's abstract. Okay, it's abstract. I left the error there. So we are going to have abstract class like this. Why? For one good reason, it is going to have an abstract method. So you cannot have a class with an abstract method and that class not being an abstract class in Java. Never. So go and read on abstraction. You see what I'm talking about. So here, if you look at it, you are not being told that this class is supposed to be an abstract class, right? But they are saying it must have this abstract method. So by virtue of having the abstract method, that class is going to be an abstract class, something like that. So now we are going to have these two subclasses, right? Blah, blah, blah. And the superclass should we have the following data members, name, what. We are going to have these data members. Let me just copy them here for one good reason. I do not want to keep on switching. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to have the string name, right? And I'll terminate. I'm going to have an ID, which is going to be an ID. You can even take it as a string as well. So I need to, yeah, that's it. And then, so here it's like I'm just declaring the data members, right? So for grade is supposed to be double, right? Supposed to be double. And then we have age. Age can be just an integer. And then we have the address. The address can be a string there, something like this. So if you look at it, we have created this with the default access modifier. Why? Because I didn't write private, public. So if I've done this, you can also inherit a data member which is of type default, like here, because these classes are on the same file. But it is good to just put them as public to make sure that they are inheritable. So these are some of the things that you are being tested, but it's not, you are not being told clearly, right? So here I can make this one public as well. Okay, so I made them public so that it can be inheritable, because it was said that all these classes, whatever, you inherit all data members of the student class, something like that. So what is supposed to be in the superclass student? It should have at least one method which is Boolean is passed double this one, right? It's supposed to have this method, but it is said that this method is going to take this parameter and check whether the grade is whatever. And then in the student class, this method should be aimed as an abstract method. So what it means is that we are going to have a method here called is passed, something like this. And then because I'm terminating here, it should be an abstract, it should be an abstract method, right? So an abstract method is that method that you've got in, which doesn't have implementation, right? So it's as good as an abstract method is a method which does not have this implementation, something like that, which does not have this implementation where you do code that this method is going to do this, blah, 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 something like that. where you put the actual implementation of that code, of that method. So an abstract method is going to be just like this. That's an abstract method. Abstract with abstract keyword, and then Boolean is what that method is going to what? To retain. What else? So the other thing is, guys, if you put an abstract method in a class and the class is not abstract here, you're going to get an error. For one good reason, you cannot have an abstract method in a non-abstract class, right? So these are some of the things. So I'm supposed to make this one abstract class, something like that. So these are some of the things that you are not being told, but for you, you need to know. So basically, this is the student class. Let's see that if there is anything that we need to do in the student class, we inherit whatever for undergrad class, if the grade is above this and this. So I think here in this class, we are good. We are good to go with this student class. And then the next thing is to have those two classes which are inheriting from the, okay. So I need to have the other class with the other classes which are inheriting from the student class. So I can have guys help me to accept those who want to join. Okay, so I need to have another class called what's is the undergrad. Okay, this one, let me just take it as it is. These are some of the things undergrad. Okay, so this class is going to extends. We use the extends keyword to do inheritance. So let's make sure that we are always on mute. Let's make sure that we are always on mute. So use the extends keyword to implement inheritance in Java, right? So class undergrad extends a student. You want to inherit from the class student, and this is what you do. And then I'm getting something here. I'm getting something here, which is an error, which is fine and it's still okay for one good reason. Whenever you are inheriting from a class, right? It's as good as you are inheriting all things which are inheritable, right? Is which include this method. It's not marked public, but it's as good as it's inheritable because they are on the same file. You can go and read inheritance. Even if we make it public here, it will be just the same. We are going to have this error. This error is because what we have done here is that we've got all these things, right, in this class undergrad. They are already available. Why? Because we have inherited them using this extend keyword. We are extending this class students. It's as good as we are taking things which we can take from the class student and extending that class, like we are adding something on top of what is already there in the class student. But take note that we are only taking those which are inheritable. So why this error? Why this error now? It's because we have an abstract method in this class, but this class is a non-abstract class. Like what I've said before, you cannot have an abstract method here inside a class which is not an abstract class unless if you implement that method. So in other words, I need to implement this method for me to be safe, or for this error to go. I need to implement this, right? So I need to remove this abstract keyword and I need to actually implement this method. By doing this, the error will go on the class. Why? Because I've already implemented this method. And also, this method is going to give me an error. Why? Because it must return a true value or a plain value. So for now, I can just return true so that the error will go. But we need to look at what are we supposed to return here, or what are we supposed to do with this method. So we go back to the question again. It is saying that here, what are we supposed to do in the in undergrad class? Excuse me. So in undergrad class, okay, we inherited this, blah blah blah. For undergrad class, if the grade is above 70, then is passed, returns true, otherwise it returns false. Okay, boom. So now we need to look at the grade now. We need to look at if the grade is greater than 70, then we return true, otherwise we need to return false, something like that. So I think this is very, very simple. So it says if grade, right, this, we've said double grade here, we have passed this grade. So I'm going to say if grade is above 70, which is greater than 70, not greater than or equal to, but just greater than 70. So I need to return true. Otherwise, or else, that's the otherwise part. Else, I need to return false. Something like that. So I need to take out this code. We no longer need this code, right? So this is what you're asked to do. So this is what you're asked to do. As simple as this, just as simple as this. So I think you just need to comprehend the question, whatever, something like that. But I don't think it's something big. So after doing this for the grad class, so now we also need to implement the grad class. Why? Because I think we are good with the undergrad class. Okay, so for the grad class, we are going to do the same. We are going to create a class, right? Class called grad. I hope this is yes, it's grad with capital letter G. Okay, guys. Also, when I create classes in Java, note that class always starts with the capital letter, right? So it's grad with capital letter G. But you find out that even if you put small letter G, you are not going to get an error. But that's a rule. It makes it easier for you to read. So this class is also supposed to extend the class student. So you also use the extends keyword. So we have created this class, right? But the error, note that it is about this Boolean method is passed that we have here as an abstract here. So we are extending this class, so we are inheriting an abstract method. So we need to implement that abstract method, something like that. I think it's a very, very simple to understand now. It would be good if everyone just joins at the beginning of the meeting so that I won't be switching in, out, in, out. Okay, so the next thing is to implement again some type of this code here. So I'm going to have the public method. So it's as good as I'm overriding that abstract method that I have there. And it's Boolean because it's going to return either true or false. Then is passed. So for methods, guys, use the camel case, what you call a camel case. Let's make sure that we are always an advocate. You want to say something?
No,
Okay.
no, say no. I was having problems with my internet.
Okay. You can mute yourself. Okay, thank you. So with the is passed now, public Boolean is passed. I was saying the method, when you are naming the methods, please make sure that you start with a small letter here. In the inner words, you put capital letters on the start of each and every word. You can just Google rules of naming methods in Java, rules of naming classes. You see what I'm talking about. Okay, so double grade. Okay, so because this one is supposed to return a Boolean value, let me just return false by default. Then I'll change it later, of course, when I'm doing the implementation. I just want to make sure that everything is correct so that I won't be intimidated by that error. So the next thing that I'm supposed to do here is to look for the information of what I'm supposed to do in the grad. So otherwise, so for the grad class, if the grade is above 80, then is passed, it returns true, otherwise it returns false. So for this one, I need to check if, right, So I want to check if grade, sorry, is above 80. So if grade is above 80.0, okay, so here let me just put 70.0 to show that I'm actually following with the question. Okay, so if grade is greater than 80.0, so let me return true, right? Simple. Else, let me take this out. So else, let me return false, something like this. Okay, easy. So this is what you're supposed to do. Okay, so this bracket, this one is for closing this class, and then this one is for closing this method, and this one is for the else, and this one is for the if, something like that. So basically, now we are done with creating all these classes, the student class we have. Now we have two subclasses, inheriting all these data members, and now we are checking if above 70 as well as if above 80 while are in the grad class. So far, so good, right? And then the next thing is to create a test class for your three classes. And in the test class, you create one grad object and one undergrad object and test your methods. Whenever you hear those statements and then test your method, it means that this is supposed to be the main class, which is going to run all these methods that we're coding, right? So we are going to have this class now, which is going to have the public keyword. Why? Because this is going to be our main class, right? So you need to go and read about the access modifiers. You get what I'm saying here. Because all these other classes, they do not have the public keyword. If I put public here, the error will be after me for one good reason. I cannot have a student class as public in a file named what test.java there. So this is going to be my main class test here, and you see here test.java, something like that. If you have been coding Java, you get to know what I'm talking about. I'm sure it's not very, very new to most of you. So now with this, now I need to write the code inside my main method. This is the main method, like the main function that you used to have in C programming. And you know that that's where everything actually starts to run or starts to execute. So this thing that you have here, guys, ignore it. It's not for this question. So excuse me, what I'm supposed to do now is to test my methods, and I'm being asked to create an object for grad and an object for undergrad. So how do you create an object of a class, right? Let's start with undergrad. I've got undergrad. Let me just say under is equal to new. You use the new keyword to create an object of a class, then I'll say undergrad, so something like this, and then I'll put the constructor there, and then across. So this is how you create an object. You say the name of the class, then you put the name like of the variable or the name that you want to use for that object, and then you say new keyword, and then you repeat or you call the constructor of that class, or you just repeat the same name of the class, and then you put these brackets of a method, something like that. You can read on that, you get to understand. So one done, and then you are supposed also to create another object for one for grad and the undergrad. Okay, so now let's do the other one for grad, right? Grad, maybe let me just say grad. Here it's a small letter G, so I'm not using the name of a class here. That's why I'm not going to have any error. New grad, then something like this. So done. I've created two objects of the class grad, right? And it was not about just creating this one, these objects. It was saying for each object, provide a grade and display the results of the isPassed method. So you are supposed to provide a grade for each object, right? So when you are seeing the grad object that we've created here, take it as this class of grad here. So it have got everything, this method, as well as all these things that we have inherited from the class student, right? So that's why we always say that an object is an instance or a copy of a class, something like that. So if I want to give a grade to this object that we have created of a grad, then I can say grade grad dot grade, right? To access the variable of grade or that data member of grade, which is in that. And then maybe I can put 90 there, something like that. And then I want to do the same for undergrad object dot grade. And then maybe let me put for this one, let me put maybe 60, and then I'll terminate. Then I need to test these methods, right? So how do I test these methods? Very, very simple. The is past methods from each of these classes. So how do I test? Remember, this value is supposed to be value between 0 and 100. So you need to take note of that, and you need to take care of that. So I'm just going to check if something like this. I'm going to look at so if when I'm testing this one, I'm going to test the grad object. So if grad dot grade, sorry, I'm supposed to use a dot here. Dot grade, sorry, is I want to say if this one is greater than 100, maybe end, not or, but end. So and this one is yeah, we can say if there's greater than 100, and also if that one grad dot grade is less than 1, which means not 1, the less than 0. So if you've got a negative, so it's something like if grad is greater than that, as well as less than 0, which means you are going to take, oh, no. This is what I'm not supposed to do. You want to take a range of 0 to 100. Otherwise, I will be putting the code inside else. Okay, let me rethink about this. We need to have a range. Okay, so if grade is greater than 100 and less than 100, less than or equal to 100, right? Something like that. If greater than or equal to 0, that's how I can include, yes, yeah, something like this. So if the range is between 0 and 100, then we want to test the is past method, right? So this grad have got what? Have got that is past method, right? And that is past method is supposed, oh no, I'm not supposed. Here it was saying I need to and print the results of is past method. Okay, so here I'm also supposed to pass the grade. Guys, let's make sure that we are always on mute, unless if you want to say something. Okay, thank you. Okay, so I want to take this thing out. I just want to print, let me just say this out. Okay, so I want to print, if you want to print to screen, use system.out.println. So I'm going to print that, maybe let me just print the results of this, nothing fancy there, whatever. So else here, I'm going to print that sys out. I'm going to print out that invalid maybe mark. So in other words, you have put in a mark which is out of range, something like that. So let me try to run this, and I'll get true. Why? Because for grad here, I've passed the 90 here, and it is going to check for grad ways that this one is going to check is 90 greater than 80, yes, so it is going to return true, something like that. Why? Because I've called that method here. I've used the object of grad to call that method. Here, this is method calling. That one that you were using to say function calling, something like that. So for testing the other one, I can just take this one and duplicate it. But now I need to change this one to under, something like that, to undergrad, something like that. I now need to use undergrad or under, something like that. So basically, so everything here is going to be undergrad for, because I'm just using object of undergrad. I hope you have been doing these things on your own. Here I'm getting a true and a false. Why? Because for the grad, this one, I got a true, and then for this one, I got a false. Let's see why I got a false. I've passed the 60 here. So it is going to call this passed method of the undergrad class. So I go to undergrad class and its passed method is this one. So I'm going to pass here 60. So it is going to check is 60 greater than 70? No. So it is going to return a false here. So that's why I got a false here. So basically, that was the requirement for this whole paragraph. So it takes a lot for you to understand what are you supposed to do, what are you being asked for, something like that. But but I think that is something that you can handle and is something that you have done before. I don't know if I've got issues, questions, contributions, or whatever that you want to say on such type of a question. It's time for you to talk. Everyone is quiet. I don't know why. Advocate.
Hello, sir.
Yes.
Thank you so much. I've been following, but then my network just played up when you were explaining on the. I just want to see the code for the part of the where you were declaring the grad and you were comparing to see whether the mark is above 100. That's where I was lost. That's where my network went wrong. Maybe if you can show me the code, sir.
Okay.
Yes,
so
yes.
For you, it's our issue. Your issue is here. So you were supposed to create two objects. So I need to add someone. Don't know. Okay. I've done. Okay. So the issue here is when you're declaring object. This is how you declare an object of a class. If you look here, it was saying, in the test class, create one grad object and one undergrad object and test your methods. For each object, provide a grade and display the results of its passed method, something like that. So how do you create the objects of the grad class? You say the grad, keyword grad from the class grad, like this one. So you say grad, then you put any name that you want for your object. So I just put a small letter G, so it's different from the name of the class, so that I remember that this object is of type or is of class grad. So grad, this grad is called new grad. So you use the new keyword to create an object in Java. So new grad, and this one, you call it a constructor. You're calling a constructor. A constructor uses it to initialize the values or the values of the variables within your class, so that your program won't start, or the object won't start with unwanted values. So it's as good as you're putting those values that you think are the ones that you need, something like that. So you need to call the constructor. So you say new grad with this. So it's as good as you're calling a method. So that's it. So that's how you create a class, an object of a class. So the other one is for undergrad. So I say undergrad under new undergrad, something like this. And then you are required to give a grade, provide a grade for each object. So how do you provide a grade? Remember this grad class here, this one undergrad also have got the grade here. You've got this grade variable how through inheritance it have inherited it from this class student. Also, this one also you've got that variable from the class student, something like that. So you do not need to redeclare this to have it here. You do not need to redeclare it here. Why? Because you already have it. You have inherited it. Otherwise, you'll be overriding the one that you already have, something like that. So how do you access that variable that you have used the dot operator to access the data members or the methods of a class using an object? So grad.grade, you have assigned 90, and undergrad.grade, I've assigned 60 there. And then how do I have to test? Now I need to include the issue of range, which is I'm supposed to check if the value of grade is between 0 and 100, right? So that if it is out of that range, I need to say, no, this one is an invalid mark. That's why I've got if grade is greater than or equal to 0 and less than or equal to 100. So I want to check is grade between 0 and 100. If it is so, then now I can go on to check or on to test the is passed the method, or to check if this person, whatever, actually have passed, something like that. So how do you do that? You call the method is passed through the grad object, right? And you have to pass that grade, so that is passed within the grad is going to check is 90 above the minimum requirement to pass. So for grad here, it is going to pass 90 here. So it will check, is it 90 greater than 80? Yes, that's why it is returning true and print it true. Why? Because we are calling this method here, and at the same time we are printing it. It is inside a print statement. So instead of having this that I'm printing here, if I run this, you see, instead of having this that I'm printing here, I'm just going to have the value which is going to be returned by this method that I've called, which is going to be this true, something like that. So you do the same for the undergrad class. You give it a value, you test it here, because you're supposed to test both methods to see if they are performing very well, something like that. So basically, that's the part that you wanted. I hope you are answered. I hope you are answered on this.
I'm answered, sir. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Any other issue? Okay, so Munashe, you want to say something?
Okay, so say I wanted to ask, you've created those if else statements in our main method. So I wanted to ask, is it okay if I can just put them in our undergrad class and then the grad class, so that when I invoke the classes, I'll just invoke the classes rather than creating the if else statements in the main method? Is it okay?
Yeah, it's okay. I was just trying to follow the question step by step. That's why I got to this one. I didn't want to assume that I need to check these values, but still it's okay. You can do it. But the one bad thing that you're going to see is that here you are supposed to print the results for grad, right? And test and see
Yes.
the values for grad. So if you put the if statement here, first checking the result, whatever, and then you pass what is going to happen there? Okay, maybe you're going to get the same output there. You're going to get the same output. Though it's as good as this one's not going to be but technically you are going to end up having the same output. It's okay. It's okay. But the simple and straight answer to the solution, it would be better to do it this way, because it shows that you're approaching the question step by step, something like that.
Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
but still it's okay. It gives us the output that we want. I'm not
Okay.
going
Thank you, sir.
I'm not going to take it as a wrong answer there. It's a good answer. Less coding maybe, but it's not less coding because you are putting it somewhere. You find out that on the other method you put an if, on the other method as well, you are going to put an if. So we are doing the same, but maybe different implementation there, and the output is just the same. Thank you, Munash. So any other
Okay,
issue?
thank you, sir.
Yes, any other issue, any other question? It seems like everyone is satisfied. Okay, thank you. Maybe you can move on to the final, maybe, but not final practice question, which is this one. So I need
We are,
to. What would you go, Munash? Munash,
sir,
what would you? What did you pick?
I was talking to my brother, yes, sir.
Okay, okay. So let's look at Romeo. You want to say something? You can.
Yes, sir. I have got a question. I wanted to ask about, for example, let me say you tested using the values. You initialized the grade to some values like there was a 90 and the other one was 60. What if you use a method of inputting the values? Is there any problem about that?
No.
Okay, it's okay. It's okay, sir.
Okay. There's no problem with that. You can even ask the user to enter the values. There is a feedback from you, Romy. Okay, I've muted you. So you can take the values. You can ask the user to enter the values. There's no problem with that. But the best way is just to put the values yourself there. Why? Because it's you who is being asked to test your methods, like to see if they're working properly. So the best way to approach it is just to declare the values yourself, to put the values yourself. Do not ask anyone to put the values. But otherwise, if you do it properly, you still get to test your methods there. But the easiest and the shortest possible way is to put the values yourself, unless if it is stated that the user must enter the values to test your methods. But otherwise, thank you for your question. Jelesa, you want to say something? Your hand is up. You can unmute yourself. Jelesa, I'm seeing that your hand is up. You can unmute yourself and say whatever you want to say. You can contribute. Okay, maybe to save time, let me just lower your hand. If your mic is not working or you are not able to unmute yourself, there is a chat here. You can type your issues. Okay. Yes.
Okay. So I want to ask, in the exam, do we really have to write all those Java, import java.util, anything like that, or we just go straight to naming the class and putting the main function? Or, yeah, something like that.
Okay. So yours is not directly to what we are doing here. But guys, it's good to know that everything that you are using, is it which class is it coming from, or which package is it coming from? Okay, for me, these ones I'm not using them for now, so they're just there for the next question that we are going to do. But it is important that it's good for you to import. If you know that it's within the Java util class, you can just say Java util dot star. So everything within that class will be imported. So it's good to import, guys. It's good to import. It's on paper, but it's good to import. Someone is calling me using WhatsApp. Guys, please, whenever you're calling me, try to use the phone call, not WhatsApp. It's going WhatsApp for some delays in it, whatever. So if you are caught doing a lot of things, you know, you get bored. But anyway, I hope you are answered. I hope you are answered. You are answered on your question. One good reason is that those who import, we know that they've really master this this module. Avasikujuma-juma, anditi. So I'm not saying it's a must to import, but if you can, try to. It distinguishes you from everyone, something like that. So let's try to code on a paper like we are coding on a machine. Okay, thank you for your questions. Now let's look at this one. I think we are now a little bit behind the time. So now let's look at this question, which says in a list of numbers, the number that occurs most often is called the mode of that list. For example, consider the following list of numbers: 2, 5, 6, 7, 7, 10, 11, 11, 13, 15, 15, 15, 19, 20, 20, something like that. If you look at it, the number which occurs most often in the above list is 15. It occurred 3 times, so therefore 15 is the mode of this list. So here we are trying to explain to you that like what is a mode, so that you do not need to say, no, I don't know what is a mode, because I wasn't learning about mode here. I was learning about Java and OOP concept. So we need to explain to you that there's something that we call a mode. So if I give you a list of number, there's something that we call a mode. What is that mode? Is the number which is appearing more, right? Or occurring more than any number on that list. Like here, 15 here is appearing on this list 3 times, more than any other given number. And that number is what? Is the mode. So here the question goes to say that write a full Java program that contains a method called find mode. We need one method to find mode, and that method should be called find mode. Let me hold this and highlight this so that people should know. Whenever you are going to declare that method, do not write it in any way that you want. You are supposed to create a full Java that contains a method called find mode. You see someone saying mode there, then you let me hold back my words. Then so that takes a link. So this method should take a linked list. So there is a data structure or a collection called linked list in Java to store a list of items. So it is going to specifically import no, not to import, but to take a linked list of integers. Let me bold this again. Linked list of integers. So yours is it's not supposed to be a generic one. It's supposed to take the integers specific within the linked list, nothing else. So as a parameter, so here, like here, you need to put it as a parameter, and returns the mode of the linked list as an integer. So this method is supposed to return an integer. That's the other thing. So it's like, it's as good as we are going to give it this list, and then it returns an integer. So you give it this list as a linked list, and then it returns an integer, something like that, from that linked list. So the method, so it is going to return the mode, not just an integer, the mode, but that mode should be an integer. So these are the key things that you need to note down. So the method should not assume that the values are sorted. So at those when I'm just going to take the first one because they are already I'm just going to compare those which are close together because they are sorted. So maybe you are going to have one at the same whatever, and then two at the same spot, whatever, something like that. Do not think that or do not take them or assume that they are sorted increasing order. So therefore, when looking for the mode, the method should not take advantage of the fact that numbers are ordered and the same numbers are stored on consecutive locations. You do not need to assume this, right? So you may use any other list or other data structures from the Java collection framework. You can go and look at this Java collections framework. There are a lot of data sets that you can use there to help you solve this problem. But whatever list or any other data set that you are going to choose, you are forced to not assume that things are sorted or to try to sort them using a natural sorting data structures in Java. No, you need to create your own algorithm to compare and find the mode. So you may assume that the linked list past is not now. Here you are just being asked to ignore the handling of error when you are given or when the linked list which is being passed is actually now or doesn't have any value, something like that. So you are required to ignore that part of handling those errors. So basically, guys, when you're giving these coding questions, what you need to do is what I'm doing. Read it, understand it, then attack. Do not say, in this list of numbers, oh, I have seen this question before. Autocode. No, that's not it. Read it fully, understand it, note the key points, not what you are supposed to do exactly. Why are we doing this? Because that's what you'll be exactly doing when you're working with the client. Ask them what they want, understand what they want, and then give a solution, something like that. Okay, so here, let me take out everything within this main method. Allow me to, I think that's, yes, I'm not lost here. Also allow me to take out everything below here. All right, so I'm going to have this. I need to add people who are joining now. Okay, so guys, this is the Java project that I have. It's as good as it's empty. Nothing is there. And what are we supposed to do? Let's go to write a full Java program that contains the method. That's where you are going to start. It must contain the method find mode that takes a linked list of integers as a parameter and returns the mode of the linked list as an integer. So guys, you are being told that this method is going to return an integer, right? So you can declare it maybe as public, or you can public, instead of saying void there, you are going to have a method which is going to return an integer. So it is going to be public int, and then this method should be find mode, right? And then this method should take in something here. Public int, yes. Then I'm getting an error here. Why? Because I'm supposed to return an integer. Let me just return 0 for now. And then what could be the error here? What could be the error to complete this class? But oh no. Sorry, I need to declare this method inside this class. Sorry, it's supposed to be inside this class. Okay, so this I will clear my error. All right, all the methods should be inside the class, right? You cannot have a standalone method there. Okay, so guys, this method is supposed to take this command which says takes linked list of integers. So I need to pass here where we're saying double grade here. We are no longer saying double grade, right? But now we are saying linked, sorry, with linked list. Maybe I'm just going to give it the name list. But remember, this linked list must be of integers. So here you need to say that it is going to contain integers. That's how you do it. Integers, something like this. So integer, yeah, not integer, something like this. So basically, this is what you're supposed to do. You have created the method correctly. This public, you can maintain it or you can leave it. This one, there's no problem. You can leave it, giving it a default access modifier. There's no problem with it. Basically, we've managed to properly answer this first part, which is create the method called find mode that takes a linked list of integers as a parameter, which is what we have done here. We've put the parameter of linked list and it have got integer here. And also it must return the mode of the linked list as an integer, something like that. So we need to return the mode. So here we are supposed to return what? Mode here. But let me just declare it here. So we are going to have some variables that we are going to have mode. Let me put it to 0. Let me have count. Let me put it to 0. Let me have maybe max count. I'm going to sort max count, and I'm going to put it to 0, something like this. Why am I having sorry, I'm supposed to put a comma here. Multiple declaration of variables, I'm supposed to put a comma. Okay, so before I have done this, I need to come here and try to explain how are we going to go about this. So there's a video that I've done before. If you go on Search Online Academy YouTube channel, you find this video, which is how to find the mode in Java. It's just about 10-minute video. If you go on it, you see where I was explaining this algorithm that we are going to use and basically how to do it, something like that. All right. So here, this is what you are going to do. Basically, this is what you are going to do. You are going to have these variables, the mode, the count, and the max count is variables within our method. And then, so I need to accept someone in this meeting. And what we are going to have next is what we are going to do next is to have two for loops, the outer for loop and the inner for loop. Here, I'm not going to explain how does a for loop work. Like to start to explain like how does a for loop work. You've done a for loop in C, in a C++, and now you are doing Java. There's a for loop. You are doing web. There's a for loop. I think now everyone knows how a for loop actually work. So if you look at this one, you are going to have an outer for loop and this inner for loop, right? And you are going to have one linked list. It's not going to be an array, but a list, but just the same as an array. It's just operate the same way. It's going to have a key and a value here. You know what is an array. So what you are going to do is we are going to have one array, this one. But what you are going to do is we are going to pick one value outside on an outside for loop, and then we compare it with every value in here, right? So whenever we see a 1 here matching with this one, like here, so we put a value in count or we increment count by 1. So we say, oh, we have seen a 1 here one time, and then we compare again this one, this value, so a 1 again, so increment this one. So now you have a 2 here in count, and then we compare this one with this 2. There's nothing there, so we are not going to increment count. We compare this one, we compare this one, we compare this one as well. So the count now will be 2. So we know that in this array, there are 2 ones, something like that. So what do? We compare this count, which is 2, with this max count, of which max count by default will be 0. So which means that max count is going to have, then we put a 2 in max count. If this one's greater than this one, so we take the value in count, we put it in max count. For one good reason, that could be the number which is our mode. because it have got a number, a more number of occurrences than any number counted before, something like that. So we need to store also the value 1 here in mode for now, because 1 is the mode for now. What do we do next? Now we take the next value, because we've compared with everything here. So we go out of the inner loop, and then we compare this value, the next value, we pick this value, compare with everything. So because now max count will be 2, the count will be 2, so 2 will be not greater than 2, so we are not going to do any assignment, whatever. So we reset count again, and then we take this value, we check with this one, no, check this one, no. So when you check with this one, then we increment the count from 0 to 1, then you increment the count to 2, then you check this one, no, then you check this one, you increment count to 3. So 3 is greater than 2, then you store 3 in max count, and also you store this 2 here, this 2 in what? In the mode here, because is the actually the most occurring number till this later patatu kombe. Then you go again for this, you go again for this, you go again for this. So that's how we are going to do it. That's how we are going to find the mode. If you go about it, you find out that it's quite easier. It's quite easier. So what are we going to do here? We already have our mode, we have our count, we have our max count. So we're going to have these for loops. We're going to have the outer for loop and the inner for loop, something like that. So for me to not create errors, let me just deal with the first for loop. I'm going to have I starting from 0, and then I'm going to have I must be less than the list dot size, or the length. If it is an array, we say the length of an array. So the length of that list, or the size of that list that we're given here. So here. So if you whatever, if you're given 10 numbers there, so we need, so I need to accept someone. So if you are given 10 numbers, so we need to loop from 0 to 9. Why? Because we're starting from 0. So from 0 to 9, there are 10 numbers there. So we are starting from 0. Why? Because we'll be tracking the array using it, or the list using the index, right? So the list is also have an index, like the first value will be at index 0, something like that, like what we used to do with arrays. So here we put I plus plus, something like this, right? So what are we going to do? Here I'm going to reset count to 0 for one good reason. After doing what we're doing here, so here, after comparing 1 with everything here, and you put whatever count, the max count, whatever, so that on the next time you need to start count at 0. So you need to reset count to 0, right? And what's the next thing to do is to have the inner for loop. Think this way, it will work. Then here we need to have an inner for loop. So in the inner for loop, take another letter here. We are going to use int j, and then j must be less than the list dot size, something like that. Yes. And then we are going to have j, so we are going to have j plus plus, something like this. So what are we going to do here? In here, we need to compare I, or the value at index I with everything within the array, something like that. So if we are going to start with the value at 0, we compare with the value at 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, something like that. You go at value 1, you compare it with everything here. At value 2, you compare with everything here, something like that. So when if you get in here, when I is equal to 0, you need to compare everything. So how do you compare, guys? Normally, because this list is because it's a list, you need to use the get method to get the value at a specific index, something like that. So we are going to have an if statement here. This if is going to compare if the value at index I is equal to the value at index j, something like that, right? I think it makes sense this way. So I'm going to say if list dot get at index I, then I'm going to say, you can even put an equal sign. Let me see if it could work. List dot, for one good reason, because we are dealing with numbers, it should be working at index j. Yes, this one, it should work. Why? Because you are not working with objects. No. These ones are going to be treated as objects. That's not how you are going to compare objects. The best way to do when comparing objects, especially when you're dealing with the strings as well, you need to use the equals method that comes with this list. So I'm going to use equals. It is going to compare objects. So normally in the list we store objects. That's why I avoid. So I'm going to say list dot get at index j, not at I, but at index j. So it's as good as I'm comparing the value at index I and that at index j. So it's as good as this. So let me put some space so that you could see. So it's list dot get value at index I. So initially, let me just accept someone in here. So it's as good as initially, if I is equal to 0, you're going to get the value at index 0 and you compare it at index j. So it's as good as you're going to take the value at 0, compare it with at 0. And then after looping, if they're equal, we are going to do something here. But if they are not, the next thing that we are going to do is to increment j by 1. So now j is 1. So you take again the value at index 0 because y is not being incremented in here. Value at index 0, you compare it with 1. So it's as good as you're comparing this value with this one, right? So the next thing is to increment j again. Take the value I angle 0, which means you are still taking this value, comparing with this value until you are done with the whole list, right? So what are we supposed to do? If it happens that this value is equal to this one, we need to increment the count. That's where you are supposed to increment the count, something like this. Yes. And then after checking all this, tapeza list read, what are we supposed to do after checking all this? So before going to increment this I and get in here, we need to check the actual value that you've got the higher count, right? So how do you do that? Because this inner method is comparing and counting everything. So after counting, we need to check here. So I am now outside of the inner for loop. So it's as good as I'm now on the outer for loop. So here, that's where I need to check that is the count that we have got here after counting, is it greater than the maximum count or that the previous counts that we have done, something like that, right? So if this count that we have got now is greater than the max count that we have stored before, so now let's have a now let's say that the mode is actually that number that we are comparing. I think it makes sense. So how to get that number that we're comparing at that instance? Obviously, it's that number at index I, because it's this number that we are holding, which is not changing, that we are comparing with everything, something like that. So you need to say list dot get at index I, something like that. That's what you need to. So that's our mode there. And the next thing that we are supposed to do is to update max count to be the current count, something like that. So we need now to say that, oh, since this count now is higher, that we got is higher than the max count that we already have, it means that it's obvious we disqualified the number at that tracker, and we need to disqualify it because it's no longer the highest appearing number. So we need to take the current count and put it in max count. By doing so, we are good to go. Why? Because we've checked the mode that we need to return, and we also managed to do so. We've also put the current count into max count, something like that. So this one, I think, is the algorithm which is going to work for you. It's very, very simple, very, very short, but maybe harder to explain as you are seeing. So the next thing is what you're supposed to do is to go to the demands of the question. The question was saying that You may assume that the linked list, whatever, you may use other list or other data structures, whatever. What else? Assume that the values are sorted, GG, whatever, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so I think we've managed to create the method. Now maybe let's test this method to see it is actually returning what you want. So what you are supposed to do here, maybe what else can we do? Okay, maybe we can have since we want to call a method that takes a linked list, it means that we also need to have a linked list here, and you put the values in the linked list. We give it to this method. This method will give us the mode, something like that. So what do we do? Let's create the object of test. Let me just say test t is equals to new test, something like this. I have the object. What's next? Now let's create an array. The very, very easiest simple thing to do is to create. There was some text. Is it my network? What? I can't hear anything. I think it's your network. Yeah, you need to try to leave and rejoin. I think you got the help that you the best help there. So what you can do here is to create an array of integers. So in Java, there's that data type of integer. Instead of just saying int, there's that integer. So let me just numbers list or whatever. Let me just let me put it this way. Yes, let me put it this way. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have these numbers 2, 2, 2, 4, maybe 4, maybe 5, something like this. By looking at it, we can see that 2 is the mode. So that's what is supposed to be retained by this code. All right, so the next thing is we need to have our linked list. So let me just have a linked list, then list is equals to new linked list. Then for one good reason, since this list, linked list, supposed to be restricted to only integers, I need to put integer here so that it will take only integers. I think I need to, what's the issue there? Okay, yeah. Then everything is sorted. What else? I think here I'm supposed to also mention that this one's going to take integers, right? Something like that. What else? Okay, so now I need to put maybe number here. City number dot is list. Can I do that? Okay, let me just say arrays dot is list. There's this method. I think there's this method, yes, where you can convert an array to a list. Like there I have an array of integers. Yes, good. It can work. You can have an array. This one is an array class, this one. So I have an array of numbers. I want to change it to list data structure so that it can appear as a list. And then I can add it to this one. So I have actually created this list object and give it all these values, right? I can test it. I'm sure I can test it to see if they're there. Let me just try to print. This one is not part of the answer. I'm just trying to test. Let me just say list dot get. I want to get the first value there, the first value at index 0, which is supposed to be 2. So I'm going to run this and say, yes, we got a 2 there, which is this value. So it's actually working well. It's actually working well. I think there's it's so clear. Yes, exit and come back. Yeah. For those that have got issues with what I'm sharing on my screen and some sound, whatever, I think you need to just rejoin. So So I saw that it's working. I saw that it's working. So what do I need now? I'm curious. I hope it's going to work. This is where you see if you can it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to call the find this method, the find mode, and I'm going to pass this list and see if it is going to give us the correct answer, right? Something like that. So guys, allow me to delay. Why? Because maybe it might not work. So there's this object that I've created. So if I say t dot, it is going to have this method, the find mode, this one. So if I just double click it, it just appear and it is going to take this list that I've created. So this list is going to pass here and then everything will start to run what we have created here. So it's as good as we are calling that. So we are just going to get the mode. So if the mode is 2, you are going to get a 2 here. And if it is not 2, we are going to get the mode. Just know that we're going to get the mode. Oh, boom, we got our 2 there. All right, let me trick it to maybe, let me have another 4 here. And now the mode is what? Is 4. Let's see. Boom, it's working. Yeah, it's working correctly. So basically, that's how you answer this question. I don't know if I've got questions, contributions. Nyaya dzimwe dzatinozotaura. All right. Anyway, Thelma, mine, you want to say something?
Okay, sir. I wanted to ask if I don't know the packages and classes to import, can I just import all the Java utilities like import java.util and asterisk, which means all? Can it be possible that it can select those packages that I want to use in the process?
I've said it before. I I've said it. I said it before that you just need to know that the class that you want is within which package. If you just say import java.util.star, it is this asterisk. It is going to include every class within that package. So it's just a matter of knowing is it under java.util or is it under java.inet. There are a lot of packages which are there in Java, something like that. I've addressed that. Okay, anyway, thank you for your question. You can do that as well. There's no problem with that. It's as good as you're importing it. Any other question or contribution, or maybe if you need Romeo?
Say I liked your code. You used for loop, but I just want to ask a question. Is there any problem if you use for each loop?
For you can mute yourself. There's a feedback. Okay, thank you. One good reason. For each loop is a for loop, but we call it an enhanced for loop. In other words, it's something like a shortcut, but it's still a for loop. So now is what we recommend is to understand the basics. But can upper level, we can say for each loop, it's fine. Use that for each loop. And also do not neglect that you are not supposed to assume that anything is sorted here. Then we are good to go if you are covering that. So I'm not saying do not use it for each loop. No. It's a very, very good thing. That's why they've created that for each loop, for those super coders, for those who understand much or who understand more, who want to run away from these basic for loops that we used to do. So if you can go that way, you can go, no problem. but it is always good to keep it cool, keep it simple. Imagine if I try to just come here and try to say, guys, we need to use this for each loop, whatever, something like that. Then it will be something which will be not easier for everyone to comprehend. But this way, I know you have been doing it C, C++, Java, whatever, somewhere there. So thank you for your question. Be free, but stand to be guided by the demands of the question. But be free to use whatever you think you can use to achieve this same thing that I've done, but still be guided by the demands of the question which are here. That's the only thing that I can assure you that your answer will be correct. But if you are going to try to assume that something is sorted, if you are going to just sort them using maybe those classes that can just sort in Java, they are there, those collections that you can just use to sort, and then you say, they are sorted, then I'm going, no, your algorithm is not supposed to assume that they are sorted, or it's not supposed to sort and work on them as they are sorted, something like that. So thank you for your question and for your contribution. I don't know if there are any questions. So if there are no further questions, no further contributions, what you might do is there is the last part which was saying find the most common. It's now very, very easy. For one good reason, you are going to use the linked list again. And it's as good as it's now a game of changing the name of the method, the type of the linked list. It's now going to take a string. What else? Everything just the same. Everything just the same. I don't know. Is there any issue with this one? This one is very, very simple now. Is there any issue with this one? I don't think there is any issue with this one. You can do this, right? Everyone is quiet, you know. We don't know if people are going to, people are saying, yes, we can do, or people are saying, no, please do that. But I think you can do this one. Monashe, you want to say something? You can
Say
unmute.
I think if you can just help us with that one. I encountered some problems when I was following your last tutorial. It tended to be longer than this one, the previous one. So
Okay.
maybe we can help us there.
Okay. Thank you. Sneaky, we want to say something. Sneaky, Mutsa, Manga. You can unmute yourself and say whatever I want to say.
Okay, say, can you just share the code? I just want to take some screenshots. My network was misbehaving, so I want to do a follow-up.
I'm not going to do that. I'm recording. You will see the what do you call it? You see the video. I'm recording. I'm going to post it. The video will be there for you to do a follow-up. You can go and take as many screenshots as you want.
All right, it's fine. Thank you, sir.
Okay, Jeles, I want to say something.
Yes, I noticed that sometimes some of the videos, when you try to access them, they will be wanting permission from the organizer. So, okay, can it be posted as like the kind of video where you can just access it as soon as you enter, like, yeah, you load it?
I mostly upload them on YouTube for one good reason. I can't give permission each and every one of you. My email will be a mess. So I put them on YouTube and I'll give the link. Like always, you have seen that in your portal there. There are links which are there for videos on the YouTube channel. So I put it on YouTube. I hope you can access YouTube and you can get everything that you want on YouTube. I don't think it's a big issue there. I hope you are answered. Unless if you have any issue with YouTube, then that's where we need to see what can we do then. So now maybe now let me look at the last question, and then we are good to go. Let's look at this one. Okay, this one. Now we're saying, what can we do now on this one, which was saying, instead of integers is above, this question works with the first names of people as strings, right? So but integers, we need now to put what do you call strings, right? And what are we supposed to do later? Now write a full Java program that contains a method called find the most common name that takes a linked list of names as parameter and returns the most common name, right? So we need to return the most common name, which is the mod, in the linked list as a string. So now the linked list needs to return a what? A string. So you are given like these ones, and then as it is being said that attender is the one with the highest occurring number. So attender is the most common name, something like that. So basically, we are now supposed to change what we are doing here. So this method is supposed to return a string, right? A string. And I'm going to get some errors there for one good reason. Here I'm returning an integer. So that's the error that I was expecting. And the other thing is that we need to get a linked list of a string, something like that. I'm going to get an error here again because I'm passed a linked list of integers. So that's the other thing that we need to tackle later. And then int mod here, the mod is no longer an integer, right? The mod is now a string, right? We need to return the mod as a string. Now let's put it as an empty string for now. And what else? Now we need to declare these values, these variables, and as integers. As much as I've done this, you see that here we are good and sorted. So here, because we're using the equals method, so this method compares objects, and we have strings. Strings are objects. So it is going to compare the object at index I with the object at index J. So we are also covered here, and we are good to go. Nothing that we need to change here. The mode we are getting in the putting mode is a string. So we are good to go. That's why I've said what we just need to cater for is just the issue of changing integers to strings, something like that. Here it's supposed to be a string, so it's supposed to be a string, and here it's supposed to be a string. Maybe I need to again look at this one. So this method is supposed to be not find mode. There was this saying which was it should be find most common name, something like that. That's what I'm supposed to have here. Find most common name, something like that. So why am I having an error here? Okay, the issue is I'm trying to put the array of numbers as strings. So the moment I start to do this, maybe it's the moment that I'm going to solve this, right? Maybe if I say something like this and say something like this. Okay, so I'm seeing the issue now. The issue is also here I do not need to make this an integer. I need to make this one a string, something like this. Yes. Then my errors will go. Also here, I am no longer calling this method, but I'm calling this method. Boom. Everything is now in good direction, no errors, no what. Let me test it and we will see if everything is working well, right? So let me just take this. I'm just going to put it here. Oh, it's too long. It's too long. It's too long. You know, these things. All right, let me try to be innovative enough and see if I can be faster. Let's try to be innovative enough. Sorry. Let me try to put it down here so that I won't. So as simple as this, you know, things will start to work. So what's the most common name here? So we could know that. So basically, that's what you are required to do. If you do it well at the start, here you won't have a challenge. Let me just test it and see if it is working. Okay, Tatenda. Was it the answer supposed to be yes, Tatenda? It's occurring 3 times. So Tatenda here. So it's the most common name, just like that. So maybe you can change this number is now to something, to names, something like that. Change here to the list of names, something like that, so that it will rhyme, something like that. And you can even change this mode here, maybe to most common name, so that we know maybe most common name is the what is the variable, so that it will start to be related to what you are doing, something like that. But otherwise, I'm not going to it starts to be related to what you are doing, something like that. So basically, this is what you are supposed to do. I'm not going to explain everything. Why? Because the algorithm is just the same, everything's just the same. Maybe it was just a matter of substituting and see if you're able to work with these strings, something like that. I don't know, the one who was asking about some errors on the previous whatever, if you got the clear understanding of what you're supposed to do on the errors that you're getting. I don't remember who was
Yes,
asked.
thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. So I don't know if there are any questions, any issues. I think it's the good time to say we have enough for today, unless if there are issues or someone wants to say something. Yes, Mark.
Thank you. Yeah. So my question is mostly on exams. So for now, I think we are doing like three new languages. So a problem that I've been having at times would be to mix up syntax. My question is, how costly is that in an exam situation? Maybe if I fail to get the syntax right, but then generally the code would have worked if the syntax was correct. How is the markup?
Trust me, if you are used to go to code, anyway, in simple terms, for that one, leave it to me. I know what I'm going to do, but I want to say that basically, when it comes to code, generally, if you are used to code, you are not going to mix the code. You cannot mix PHP with Java, never ever. You cannot mix the JavaScript with the Java, never ever. It can't, it can't.
We are not used to code.
You need now. You need to code. Now you need to code for one good reason.